Hey, welcome everyone to EduStream TV Day 1. I want to remind you, EduStream is something we started doing 5 years ago. This is our third one, and it's aimed at helping you as teachers and educators learn how to use video to enhance teaching and learning in your classrooms, in your schools, and throughout your whole university or your university system, if that's who you are. Over the last few years, we know that video has become an integrated part of teaching, of remote lectures and taping lectures and streaming lectures, as well as video being used in the classrooms from elementary to high school and beyond. This year's show, I think you're going to find, while we focus a lot on some individual products and companies, it's really becoming more of a bigger solutions type show where we're really going to talk more about broader solutions that can work in a single classroom or throughout a school or throughout a school district. And that's one of the things that's happened over the last few years is video technology has been able to scale on a large level. Now, some of that scaling is through video going back and forth through classrooms and lecture centers, but a lot of it's got to do with just being able to control and monitor multiple devices district-wide or campus-wide and stuff like that. So I think you're going to find this year's show quite informative. If you've been to some of the others, I think you're going to learn a lot of new cool stuff. But we're really excited. Day 1 to get you started on EduStream. It's 3 days, today, tomorrow, and Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. At the end, we're going to do all kinds of prizes and stuff. I want to remind you that you can join us in the chat. We're live streaming on Facebook and YouTube as well. 2 years ago in 2023, EduStream was one of our really big breakthrough events, a really big event. We had hundreds of people sign up for it and even more viewers. We're really hoping that this year's can be even bigger. So by all means, if you're seeing this show, sign up and register for everything, and we'll get you into the raffles for the great prizes and all that. And now I want to talk a little bit about today's show and today's multiple shows and today's schedule. So let me give you the rundown of what we're going to be covering today. Our keynote address is with Epiphan, talking about their Pearl family of video recorders, streamers, and playback devices, and these scale so beautifully, and they're being used by so many, not just individual schools, but campuses and things like that, especially in higher ed. The role of video in modern education, PTZ cameras and remote production capabilities with PTZ optics and their new Hive Studio, a really cool tool that lets you control multiple PTZ cameras from a computer, and those cameras can be anywhere in the world. Then we're going to talk to you about Absson LED video walls, where we're seeing those especially in higher education. Today's show starts with a special guest, George Burkle, VP of Marketing from Epiphan Video. Before I bring George up, once again, I just want to let everyone know that EduStream TV is a 3-day program. You can call us. You can register for EduStream now at www.edustreamtv.com. All these shows will be available live as well as on demand afterwards. But if you register, you get to get prizes. And also, if you have any questions about these shows when they're going on, ask them to us. We'll try to answer them within the show or in the wrap-up show on Thursday. So without further ado, let's bring in George. George, how you doing?
Hey, great to be here. Thanks so much for having us. I'm so glad you're doing this live and that we can actually talk to people, right? We've got some people that can ask questions and we can interact. Yeah, okay, great. It's always a lot more fun when we get those questions.
Cool. Now, I think at this point, I'm going to turn over control of the PowerPoint to you so you can take that over, and the guys will take a second or two to make sure it's your PowerPoint showing in the right window.
Sure. Yeah,
but, hey,
that's great.
There you go.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so this first slide, this is a little nod to who we are. I don't know if anybody out there, how familiar you are with Epiphan, but we often say broadcast without barriers. And it's kind of like what Gary was talking about a minute ago, in that we're trying to make video accessible for teachers. We're trying to make it so that schools can do all the things they want with video, but without as much of the complexity that has typically been involved when you're setting up video productions, right? Even that word production, we try not to use it when we're talking about higher ed applications because we want it to be a lot more seamless than that. And if you know anything about our history, it's probably a little bit about our history in space. So you know this, Gary, we've got products up in space today, and this is where we started, and it's still there today. There's stuff on Everest. There's stuff with this group called Under the Pole who uses us in this incredibly hostile environments to capture video. And that's because that's what we're really good at. It's just making sure that video is easy to record, easy to capture, easy to stream.
I,
Since then,
I
we're
want
kind
to
of everywhere
interrupt you
else
for a
now.
second because
Yeah.
it's more than that, and you're selling it short. You guys also build in like a medical industrial grade your gear, and there's a lot of other gear that's out there that does some of the stuff that yours does, but it's not built for that environment of a school with students and being moved from classroom to classroom. Your stuff is built like tanks. And I think there's a lot to be said for that because schools can rely on them and know they're just going to work and keep working. So not only easy to use, but they are incredibly reliable and stable.
Thank you. I couldn't have said it better with myself. And that's why we've been successful, because people, like, in any kind of video situation, just like today, James and Adam running this show for you today, they're going to sweat bullets if something goes crazy, right? Something goes wrong. So they're going to want to use the best gear they can. So it's the same thing in education. People don't
Yep.
want to have any risk, and we try to mitigate that risk. That's why we've exploded in the world of academia in the last couple of years. Pick your school logo. There's probably a chance that some department within that school is using Epiphan, primarily in the higher ed, but we're also seeing growth in the high schools as well.
I paid tuition to one of those logos from one of my kids. So.
I'm so sorry. It's only 4 years, I hope. But when we talk about video in higher ed, I'd love to hear what the people who are watching how they see that value, because we often talk about the idea as though it's you're live streaming to a bunch of remote attendees. And while that is true, you get accessibility that you can have people not show up to class and they can watch video. That's not actually the main deal. It's that students want that video because it enhances their learning experience. Just like this call today here, Gary, like if I can review the things that we talked about in this call later, I'm gonna be much smarter if I do that. And it means I'm not here scribbling notes. So that's what people are using all this video for. They just want to have that record of it, that archive.
And to that, I want to say that, I think you're spot on. I think students want to watch the video live, but they love knowing it's on demand. If there's a part they were a little confused on, they want to follow up on, or maybe tomorrow's video reminds them that they got to go back to something from the other day. And I don't think people are understanding, not everyone, but so many people are visual learners who can just learn how to do something from a video much more so than necessarily reading an instruction manual. I know, my kids learned how to do so many different things like solving a Rubik's Cube from YouTube videos, not from cheat sheets or, instruction manuals.
Yeah. And then all of the AI that they can do on that they can take this 1 hour long conversation and say, tell me when they talked about the VOD section. When did that happen? And just get that little snippet of it. So there's so much more power in video today than there was a year ago. And the students, of course, are like the furthest ahead on that curve, right? So now it's about making sure faculty see that value, making sure all those school administrators see that same value.
I agree.
Yeah, so this data here, this comes from Panopto here, which is probably a topic we'll talk about a little bit later too, the whole CMS side of things. When you get to, it's one thing to record all of that content, you need a place to be able to play out all of that content as well. So we work well with all of those systems like Panopto and Kaltura. And then I'd like to talk a little bit about where that video is happening on campus. We, of course, think of classrooms, right? Doing lectures. But there's so much more video that can happen on a school campus. And we did a survey last year with a lot of AV people and IT people at campuses when we asked them, are you taking advantage of the opportunities for video in education? And you can see here, about half of them think they're not. So this gets me excited because it means, I've got a lot of people to talk to, right? They all see this opportunity. So what I've been trying to have conversations about, like what is preventing those people from installing video in all the places on campus? You have, of course, classrooms, you have podcast studios, you have events, you have sports, you have big auditoriums. So there's all these cool conversations happening and people are going, well, how come we're not capturing that? So it's a really good time to be in higher ed video, the technology side, because it's kind of exploding right now.
And I just want to add something to that, and that is that I hope some of the people watching these shows are IT professionals at these institutions, because they tend to be the biggest barrier. Even after COVID and having video streaming and all that stuff, they're still kind of concerned about having video running ramped, all over their network and bringing their networks down and crashing their network. So I feel that
They should be. They're a problem, but they're also, it's like if they can set up a situation where they have 100 classrooms to manage, that's pretty good job security for them. So there's a real advantageous reason for them to adopt video.
I agree completely. And what you said is very important. The command and control of the devices is as important as the video itself. And that's where you can really scale and create an IT department that's really delivering a lot more than you thought you could, because you don't have to send someone into every single classroom or lecture center to make sure
Yeah.
everything's working right.
Yeah.
And that's where you guys really shine.
Exactly. Like if the alternative to our solutions, which we'll talk about here today, we sell appliances. So you take one of these Pearl systems and you put them in a room, you'd never have to go in that room and manage it. Whereas like historically, people would have computers running in those rooms to do that job of capturing, recording, and streaming that video. Well, computers are a pain, right? You've got to go from room to room. Things happen with them, they break, things get unplugged. So they're very high maintenance in the land of IT. So we have a lot of people saying, please just give me anything that's not a computer, because I can't scale 1,000 computers across campus. It just doesn't work. But you can with devices like this, like you said,
100%.
the whole management side. Yeah. So maybe, can I tell you about our latest product that has been kind of the bee's knees around higher ed?
What a great segue.
So this is Pearl Nexus, and we put this out a year ago, almost to the day. And it has quickly become our most popular product. And it's because it's such an easy fit into a classroom. I hear voices in my background, and I don't know if you're talking to me.
Nope, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, so this is Pearl Nexus. It doesn't look like it's straightforward, right? It's a piece of equipment you're going to put in a lectern at the front of a classroom. But what it's going to do is allow you to capture all the video that's happening in that classroom and send it where it needs to go, quite simply. And if you're a faculty member, it means you've got this classroom that's automated, hopefully. So all you have to do is walk in and teach and know that you've got your cameras being recorded, your presentations being recorded, anything else that's connected in that room, there's an audio system, it's all going to get recorded and sent to where it needs to go. The IT people who are watching, the AV people will know that these logos are really important, and that you have other systems like Crestron and QSys that are set up as control panels in those rooms who are often controlling our devices. And then our devices are sending that content off to Panopto and Kaltura and other places. So the short of it is, whatever you have installed in that room, whatever systems you're using, whether it's software or hardware, it's going to play nice with Epiphan. It's another one of our calling cards. You can see the back of this device here. If you want to know what you can connect, we can talk about this all day, of course. But again, whatever you got, there's going to be a way to get it in here. So you've got HDMI, you've got SDI, you've got USB cameras. If you want to plug in a microphone, you can do that. You've probably got an audio system or a DSP in that room. It's all going to come into Epiphan, and then you'll get it to where you want to go.
Now, I think one of the interesting things about this is this was basically a request from the very customers who use it, from teachers and especially professors in higher education. You basically said, I love the Pearl Mini, but I don't need this screen. And the IT guy said, I need all this functionality without the screen to just be there in the lectern, so the professor has to do nothing. It just works, and that's what you've done. But we had a question from someone come in asking about a portable solution. So I'm going to say everything that the Nexus can do, you can do with a Mini, and that's a device you can move from room to room if you want, especially if you're a school that's maybe an elementary or a middle school that's starting with video and not ready to go big deployment, but you just know a couple of teachers want to use it in their classroom. So I wanted to let everyone mention that. We can get back to the Nexus now.
Yeah, no, you're right. I've got a Mini on my desk here. I keep it here all the time. It's the most relatable product we have because this is all in one. You don't need a control system. You can start recording on here. You can start streaming. You can set it up with a one-touch button. So it's very, very easy to use. So we see people putting these in what I call like a self-serve space.
Exactly.
Maybe it's a podcast studio. Maybe it's a small auditorium where you just want to come in and do some live streaming out of it.
Yep.
This is a really easy solution for people to get into it.
So what I like to say about that one is the talent or lack of talent like me can actually operate and pick from a few presets and actually mix the show to come between, let's say, my presentation, myself, and do I want to just have myself up there, just the presentation, or a pre-select screen with both. The Mini does that with ease, and I can stream, record, and even play back some video I had recorded. And once again, all those features are in the Pearl Nexus, but the Nexus is really set up for scale, for that, university system or a school district that wants to have multiple devices that can be controlled remotely. And the remote is, I don't think we're giving the remote enough credit. So I know you've got your edge technology, and I don't know where that is in the presentation, but I think we need to emphasize that we can set this thing to turn on and off 5 minutes before the professor gets in there and 5 minutes afterward. And each professor can have his own special settings. So let's talk about that scheduling and that automation that's there, because that's really cool, and that's only getting better as AI and other things get added to that control process.
Yeah, this is my favorite version, Gary, of a classroom where that faculty doesn't have to think about anything at all. Where you can come into that room and know it's just going to record, or it's going to stream, it's going to do whatever you want it to do, but you can schedule it all in advance. Like, this, like coming into this event here, I'm hustling. I've got this PowerPoint open. I added 6 slides, which we're going to see later on.
Yep.
I'm kind of nervous because I got all these things I got to come in. I don't really want to have to come in here and remember how to use some piece of equipment that I might not even know how to use properly. So the fact that you can just automate this, people like it. The teachers like it.
I think it's a killer.
So, yeah, and you can automate it a bunch of different ways. You can automate it through our cloud. So that's what you're referencing. We've got, Epiphan Edge, which means when you're logged in, you can see all of your devices and you can schedule them. Or what we see more often is it's being automated through some third-party scheduling system. Like, APIs are everywhere now. Most people are building APIs into everything they're doing, and it's often how they're scheduling our devices as well.
And when you're talking APIs, you're really talking about integration with like Panopto and Kaltura and the other CMSs. So should we talk about that a little bit here, or do you want to get to that later in the presentation?
I think I've got. Well, here, let's show a picture of what it might actually look like installed. Cool. So this is a diagram showing you've got maybe 3 video sources connected, just like this show here today, where you've got a camera on you, camera on me, and my slides. And you can bring all of that into Pearl, and you can bring in your audio, and then you can send all of that content off. In this case, it's to Panopto, but it can be to anywhere. It can be to any kind of CMS. It can be to YouTube if you're just getting started. It doesn't have to be one of these CMSs. It could be going to a Teams call. So again, you have that flexibility to do whatever you want. But the most important part is this big red record icon here, which means no matter what's happening and where you're sending that content, you've always got it recorded locally to the device. And that's like the biggest security blanket that any AV person or IT person cares about, because they know they've always got that to go back to, because anything else can happen downstream. The network can go out. There could be some other problem with their local network, but it's always going to be recorded locally to the hard drive of the system.
It's backing up in real time as the lecture is going on.
Yes, and you don't have to clear this hard drive, because some people have had computer-based workflows where the drive fills up and then suddenly they can't record anymore. This will just overwrite itself after it goes through its terabyte hard drive. So it's kind of self-maintaining.
Cool.
I can show you.
I was going to say, I love that feature. Can you explain it a little bit more?
Yeah. So in most cases, let's say you record for a week or a month. Well, by the end of that month, you've already transferred all of your footage off of this device to where you want it to be permanently stored, either a cloud location or a local server. This thing, as soon as it records, it pushes those files to that server, which means it will just start rewriting itself over top of the old files a month later when it's full. So it just means you don't have to think about recordings. You don't have to think about file management. It kind of does all of that for you.
It's almost like a security system, like the way the security monitoring system works.
Yeah, same principles.
Cool. Now, you guys had a really great success story with UNLV. So can we dive into that?
Sure, I can show you a picture of their diagram, what it looks like, which is pretty similar to what I just showed you, except in this case, they have a little bit more in-room equipment. They have an AV matrix and they have a Crestron control panel. But again, these are all kind of similar when you go from school to school. And in their case, they operate our devices. They don't use the Pro Mini, they use the Nexus. In fact, they were a big part of helping us develop the Nexus and giving us the input in terms of what they needed. So we're quite close to them as a customer and just as friends as well. And you can see here, if a teacher comes in a room, they use the front screen and the touch panel at the front of the room. And they're using it beyond just classrooms too. So of course they have it in this picture here. This teacher's at the front of the room. Our Pearl is in that lectern at the front, but they've also got it in their golf simulator rooms. Of course, it's Vegas, so they've got a few different kinds of spaces that they teach to. They've got cooking kitchens as well, where they have to route a lot of video into all of the screens within the room as well. So that's usually a consideration that anybody doing video is trying to figure out, how do I route video internally as well? And our devices have a couple of HDMI outs on them, so you can usually route video to where you need to get it. Another application would be their larger auditoriums. So they've got us in, I think, about 350 different kinds of spaces. So they're a, very forward-looking school when it comes to video adoption. And I know probably a lot of the people here are just getting started, but it's nice to see kind of where some of the people are going.
So this is EduStream TV, and we hope we have a lot of not just teachers, but principals and deans and chair people and IT department heads. So if someone is at a school and they're like, this seems pretty cool, I don't have the budget of UNLV, but I've been trying to get this solution for 10 or 15 classrooms, they can call us. We'd be happy to help them. We'll put them together with a local integrator if they need a local integrator for installation. We'll also get them on the phone with you guys if they want help with diagramming, because I think what's important for these schools to know is we're here to assist and be a part of your team putting it together. That we know there's some complexity beyond just installing a device and plugging it in to get it going. Once we get it set up, your professors, it's automatic, it's easy, but we have the resources here, plus you guys, to get people the help they need to get something like this set up. And I understand they can get demos, and we can even, if there's a big enough opportunity, get them some demo gear, and even perhaps have a Epiphan, someone come and work with them on it. So I just want to stress to those people with those bigger scale projects, we're here to help you. And I can't think of a better solution than a Pearl. And if it's on lecterns, the Pearl Nexus. If it's teachers wanting to control it themselves, let's talk about the Mini a little bit more.
Yeah, that's a perfect, like what we see often are those schools like UNLV, they start out with one device, and they put it in a room because they have to build a bit of enthusiasm around it, right? It's a pilot project. So they'll put it in a place like a one-button studio, and they tell people, hey, you can go in here and just create content. And usually once the teachers see that they can just come in here and push one button and make something, kind of gets them excited. Or they get students involved, and the students are going in and creating that content. So setting up that small pilot environment with just one, put it through the paces. Maybe it's something that grows from there.
No, I think that's how it happens a lot. And like you said, UNLV was that way, but a great way, if you're interested in what the Pearl family of stuff can do, the Mini is a great place to start as your proof of concept for a school. And then if you want to roll it out to the Nexus, we can help you do that. Or if it's something where you don't need even the level of what the Mini is, you just need some inexpensive nanos for your other classrooms, because it's one channel in, one channel up, one channel down. So we've got a whole family of products that we can design into your solution, because it might be a combination of some Pearl Minis in the self-study, do-it-yourself rooms, while we have Nexuses throughout in other areas. We might even have a big Pearl in another more elaborate studio or classroom environment. So just such cool stuff. I love that your stuff is at multiple levels. So I kind of segued again. Let's talk about that big Pearl. If someone's really looking to set up maybe a whole auditorium with multiple cameras, but they want it to be easy.
Sure, it could be a large auditorium and I mean, the workflow is essentially the same as the other diagrams that we talked about, where you've just got a lot of different camera sources, but you want to make sure that every one of them is recorded, and you probably want to send some of them off to a place where your students are going to watch that content as well. So it could be an auditorium setup, or it could be a place like what we see down the road from me at the University of Laval, where they have a medical sim lab. And if you can imagine trying to get a room of 30 students around a cadaver to look at something, it's not going to work. It's physically just not going to work. So of course, video in that place there's no better application for it. So they've got all these cameras pointed at this subject matter, and then they capture it all into a Pearl 2, and then they've got all the recordings of that, and all the students can digest that content either in an overflow room or some kind of a CMS as well. So the applications that are coming out of higher ed are just crazy.
And I want to jump in on that a little bit, because we've seen some success also, and Laval is a perfect example, but a lot of teaching hospitals, So it's a
Yeah, yeah,
hospital that
yeah, same
teaches
deal.
the attached to a medical school or medical school. We're finding they love the pearls because they are appliances. They don't take up a whole lot of room. They don't need an operator, which is, a big problem when you're in a limited amount of space and privacy and HIPAA laws and all that other stuff. So we really have found that the pearls are fantastic in that medical vertical. So for educators, great. This is EduStream. But if you're a hospital that just wants to be a teaching hospital, I don't know that you necessarily are watching this show because maybe you don't consider yourself to be in education, you consider yourself to be a doctor, but it's still a great choice in that environment. And I think that's a sleeper kind of vertical for Epiphan over the next year or two, which is, medical and hospitals specifically.
Yeah, we have quite a few hospitals using us already, and all of these customers, they share one of the same attributes in that they need cloud access into these devices. The reason we've become popular is not just because we have really robust hardware that records all the time, it's that you can control it from anywhere. So this is what we call Epiphan Edge, which is a cloud-based instance, and that you would pair each device to your Edge account. And there's a free account so you can see all of your devices. So if you have 10 classrooms, or you have 5 classrooms, you can log in and see, okay, I've got all my cameras are looking good, all my channels are good. I can see that I'm streaming in 2 of my classrooms, or I can streaming and recording in all of them. So a nice bird's eye view of everything. And if you can imagine some of these teams, they're only 2 or 3 people managing 100 rooms, this becomes a requirement.
And I don't have to be on my network. The command and control
No.
is through the cloud. So these pearls could be anywhere in the world and be controlled from a central person who could be at home. You don't even know, you could be in a knock, you could be at home, you could be traveling on the road with the team if it's a sports related thing, and still be able to control all the cameras. And I think that's the Epiphan Edge is one of those things that make these products, your product specifically, so scalable. And I'm not using the cloud for all my videos, so it's not big and expensive.
No,
It's
no,
nothing
it's
but
just a bit of
command and control. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I had 2 customers this year tell me, one of them, they were controlling a Pearl from a ski lift in Oslo,
Nice.
because somebody called them and they said something's going wrong, and they just dialed in quickly and they had to move some files around, so they were able to do that. And then another friend sent us a picture of him on an airplane doing live production of a bunch of Pearl systems while he was, doing some domestic flight. So it does come into play all the time for our customers. It's a real differentiator for us too. Yeah.
And the Edge is something that is not expensive, correct?
Well, like I said, the free version of Edge means you can see all your devices. You can start and stop recording and streaming. So for a lot of our customers, that's all they ever use. And then the ones who get more involved and they want to do scheduling, or they want to have deeper configuration control capabilities, they pay the $25 a month or $20 a month, I think it is, for a subscription, so they can have full, complete cloud access into their devices.
Very affordable. That was the point of it. So it's free or inexpensive. Yeah. I love that. That's a great winning combination. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about, and I might be skipping on you, but you mentioned APIs a little bit. We went through some of the people you work with, but if we could talk more about the people you work with and also some of the stuff that maybe you're working on where you can't give specific names, but you can give a little peek to people in the education space and where we're going with this stuff.
Well, we've gotten to the point where we kind of work, because our API is really strong, we just put out a new API, which means it's really easy to develop our equipment into whatever stack you have now. And there's out-of-the-box integrations with things like Q-Sys and Crestron and Panopto, and those are pretty much plug and play, ready to go. But with that API, we're seeing this across all of our industries. People are getting clever, and they're going, I can use a Stream Deck to trigger my Pearl to start, and I can change the lighting configuration. So we're seeing a lot of ingenuity on the consumer level, but also the businesses who are just stringing all this technology together into unique automated spaces. So if you can dream it, you can do it. I'm pretty sure about that. I don't see any roadblocks to people being able to control Epiphan any way they want, because the API is really well documented and robust. So it's
super cool. If I was a music school and I had like 12 rehearsal rooms, I could have Pearls set up with them and they could know to start recording when they hear the first note, right? I mean, that's the kind of stuff someone who's smart can do with an API.
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
Very cool. And then I also want to stress a little bit, because we do NDI November. We're a big NDI proponent and stuff like that. The Pearl Mini, And the Nexus support NDI, so they can integrate with any NDI environment we use, not just for lectures and stuff, but in an actual pro video studio type application. Then you also have SRT, which is a great way, to bring people in with video from outside, anywhere in the world to anywhere you are through SRT. It just works.
Exactly. And I know a lot of these higher ed institutions and schools are kind of quasi live event companies too, and that they're
Yep.
doing cool things. They've got guest speakers coming in. They might have some really important people coming in and they want to broadcast that to YouTube or somewhere like that. So these technologies like SRT and NDI come up a lot in those kind of applications.
So I had a hunch when I got a preview of the slide deck we were going to be closer to 30 minutes today, and we are. But I think now we get to the most important part of the program for you, and that is why Epiphan? Why should people say, why do I want an Epiphan Pearl?
I think that honestly, I don't have to say it. Talk to your other colleagues at other schools. I'm in marketing. You know how hard it is to market to people in higher ed? We're doing it here today, but what I find about this community is there's so much collaboration in the higher ed community that they're talking to each other and they're all saying, well, we tried an Epiphan and it worked. So that's who you should be talking to. And if you need introductions, you should talk to us because we probably are working at the school next door to you or the campus next door to you. And it's really because our stuff just works all the time. It's trusted, it's easy to use, and it's ongoing. This development is nonstop. So we've always got new things coming up. So we'll be at InfoComm in June if you happen to be in Florida, and we'd love to see you, and you can come try it and poke it and see how it works.
What I want to hype on out of this whole deck of why Epiphan is trusted. If you put Epiphan Pearls as part of your educational video workflow solution, you can trust it. It's just going to work. We talked earlier about how the stuff is made so well. You can trust it because you can access it without even being there. You don't have to go in the room. You can trust it. You can see it remotely. And then the other thing that I love about it is I don't think you guys give yourselves enough credit for the Swiss Army knife capabilities you have. Really, just about anything someone could dream they need to do with video in an educational environment, a Pearl can handle.
Exactly, yeah. And there are some really great closed ecosystems that some people latch on to, but we're the opposite. We are the open ecosystem. We work nicely with everybody. So some people have come around to us that way, and they want something that's going to work for them in 5 years because they don't know what technology they're going to have. Things are going to change, right? So they want to be ready for that.
I agree completely. We've come a long way since, COVID 5 years ago and where video is in education. And I think one of the companies leading the way is Epiphan. So I want to thank you so much for being on the show, George. And I always say, whenever I do a show, I like to give my guests, the last final word to just say what you ever want to say about EduStream, about yourself, your favorite football team, or Epiphan Video. The floor is yours. Take it away.
Well, thanks so much for spending time with us. And I really hope people actually do reach out and say hi and call us and give us your hardest challenges or tell us why we're wrong. We'd love to hear about it because we're going to learn something from it. That's how we've gotten to where we are today. So if you've got ideas about things you're trying to come up with or solutions you can't quite figure out, call me or call our team and we'll try and help you crack it. And it's been a delight to be here. So thanks very much, Gary and the Broadfield team.
Awesome. Guys, learn more about Epiphan Education, epiphan.com/solutions for education. By all means, go there. And also, you can call us and we'll be happy to help you and get you set up with the guys over at Epiphan too. I just want to check with my team to see if there are any questions or comments that me and George should go over. And it looks like we do have one.
1 second. So somebody asked if you can set the Nexus to auto purge after so many.
Must be a hard one. They're thinking long and hard about this one.
Yep. Can you set the Nexus to auto purge after a certain amount of time, or does it just start overriding automatically?
It just overrides automatically. So that's what we find, I think, works for everybody. You can set it to not do that so that you can manually offload that footage. So you don't have to, if you're worried about it overriding, you can put a safeguard in place.
Cool. And also I can set it to upload to multiple places if I want to. So I could be uploading to the cloud, or I could be sending this to a central storage system that's, back at the home base. Do we have any other questions? Another one came in. We love this.
What is the factory warranty that comes with the product?
What is the factory warranty that comes with the Pearls?
I think we have a 1-year warranty, but we also have an extended warranty that's available as well. And if you talk to Gary and team, they'll hook you up with that.
Awesome. And guys, I just want to say for the record, we have sold, it's more than hundreds, it might have been thousands of sorted pearls. And I don't know of field failures. They just work and keep working. You know, every now and then we'll get a unit that maybe got jostled up, we had a problem with, we had to do something the first, you know, couple of weeks or a month. But the truth of the matter is these are appliances, set them and forget them. They just work and they keep working. The reliability is outstanding.
Thank you for saying so. I agree.
All right, George, great show. We had some questions. It's great to have you on. Thank you for being a part of EduStream TV. And I want to remind everyone, we have more coming up today, more shows today, tomorrow, and Thursday. And we have some great content and some great prizes for you to get as well. So thank you very much for everyone who came in. Thank you, George, and we'll see you later.
Thanks, Gary. See you guys.
Bye. We're going to stop here.
Hey everybody, my name is James. I'm another one of the hosts here at EduStream. I want to say thank you again to George and Gary for kicking off the show. Now I kind of wanted to take a little bit different of an approach and talk to some of the teachers that may be watching. And I really want to talk about some of the ways that we can incorporate video into the classroom. Now, one thing that Gary and George talked a lot about were LMS and CMS systems, which are, lecture management systems. These are systems that you can connect something like a Pearl to be able to have your classes automatically recorded and then sent to this platform where your students can then log in, they can watch the videos after, they can watch it at their own pace. And some of those features also include like being able to have quizzes. So you can have a student watch the lecture and then take a quiz right after. Some of these other features also include the ability to monitor who watched and how long did they watch. So it's great to have the integration into these lecture management systems. And again, the Pearl systems have already automatic integration with some of the most popular ones like Panopto, Kaltura, OpenCast, and Yuja. Now, I kind of wanted to talk about the role of video in modern education and why a teacher should consider utilizing video to enhance their learning. And right off the bat, one of the things is engagement. I don't know about every student, but I do a little bit better when I am watching something and I am definitely more engaged. I hate to say it, but we all have a kind of short-term interest these days. And so if you can have a video playing and you can have some animation playing, that's going to make it much more engaging. A perfect example of this, and we'll talk about another example in science too, but like if you are filming a science experiment in a science class, well then now your students can watch it and then not only be able to see the science experiment, but if it's on video and you're shooting on, let's say a camera that shoots at 60 frames per second or maybe even 120 frames per second, you can slow that video down and see exactly what is going on in that science experiment. So it's always good to have video to go and enhance the normal, in front of the classroom type of teaching. And then of course, accessibility. Again, once this video is on a lecture management system or on YouTube or wherever you want to place it, it allows the students to then be able to get access to that class again. So, a perfect example of this is if you are a math teacher and you are teaching your students how to solve a very complicated equation or something like that, to have the students be able to go in, when they're doing their homework that night or over the weekend, to be able to access that video to say, oh, how did we break this down again? Well, now they can rewatch it and rewatch it as many times as they need to learn at their own pace. Definitely accessibility is super important when it comes to education. And, you teachers work hard. I'm not going to claim that I'm a teacher, but I know that teachers work hard, and you're only with your students for, 8 hours a day or something like that. So being able to have access to this education again is great for those students. And then the last thing that I wanted to say is, again, I'm not a teacher, but I have a personal visual learning. So I tend to be able to retain more information when I am watching a video. And so to be able to, again, rewatch the video, or if a teacher is coming at it from a different perspective, then that will make it a little bit more interesting, and then my attention is more focused on the video. Now, the next thing that I wanted to get into here is talking about different ways that you can utilize video in a classroom. Now, of course, we have the tried and true being and recording your lecture. But if you already have some of this video equipment in place, whether it's something like a Pearl system and a PTZ camera, or even a DSLR or a camcorder, there are different ways that you can get the video involved. And one of them is, you can create instructional videos. I kind of already said this a little bit, but again, if you are a math teacher, yeah, you can record your lecture and then have that online, but then maybe you make a little bit more of a produced video with maybe a little bit of animation to explain how that equation is being broken down, and then being able to show that, maybe mixed in with your lecture. Because again, when you have animations or just a different perspective to teaching something, sometimes students will be able to retain it in different ways. The next thing is, again, documenting experiments, especially for something like a science class, being able to slow down that video to really see exactly where did the combustion happen, when did the gas turn into a liquid or liquid turn into a gas, being able to have the video there to enhance it. And then also same thing with with math. So let's say that you want your students to be able to do this science experiment the next day. If you've already made a video documenting what you want them to do, step-by-step instructions, you can say, hey, I want you to watch this tonight. So as soon as we go into class tomorrow morning, I can give you all of the stuff, and then we can just get right into the experiment. We don't have to waste time going over step by step what to do. Obviously, you will want to go over it as you're doing it, but it can save a little bit of time with the students when you are in person with them. The other thing is, it would be nice to get students to be engaged more too. And everybody has a phone in their pocket to be able to record things. And so why not try and incorporate some video into your projects? So let's say that, you're teaching a history class, and you want to make sure that your students are retaining that information. Well, now have them make some kind of video essay explaining what did George Washington do, or whatever the history event is that you were talking about. Being able to say, hey, the school has these limited numbers of, let's say camcorders or DSLRs, and have the students be able to take it home and then be able to make their own videos. Another thing is to practice speech, being able to talk in front of a camera, being able to talk in front of a classroom. Some people don't want or do well talking in front of a classroom, but maybe they can talk in front of a camera and then be able to play the video to show like, hey, yes, I did retain this information. I just don't feel comfortable standing in front of the class and explaining it. one of my favorite things to do is do exactly what we just did with George Burchell, and that's have a guest join your lecture. And one of the ways that you can do that is with video. All we did was have a very simple Teams call running with George Burchell. We brought it into our production system, and now he's interacting with Gary, who could be considered the teacher in this situation. And like George and Gary were saying, he's utilizing NDI to bring a PowerPoint presentation into it to be able to talk about it. In this example, and I've done this, and this is why I think it's a good example, is, let's say that you're reading a book in your English Lit class, and you got, you reached out to the author, and the author is able to join a Teams call. Well, now you can bring that into your lecture as well. Whereas, the teacher may not be able to fly out to the school, but this author may be able to say, hey, yeah, I can hop on a Zoom call for 30 minutes and be able to talk to your students and make it a little bit more, again, engaging, interactive, encourage the students to finish the book so then they can ask the creator of said book, hey, why did you do this? Why did that character do this or that or the next thing? We're really just trying to think of different ways that you can utilize video other than just doing your lecture. And again, this can be in pretty much any type of class, whether it's science, the arts, math, history, English literature. There are so many different ways that you can bring video into these classes, give a different perspective to your students to be able to try and retain that information just another different way. Now, we were talking a little bit about how you can implement this across a campus. And one of the ways to do that is utilizing NDI. And if you don't know what NDI is, NDI stands for Network Device Interface, and that is where you put a video feed onto a local network, and then any device that is NDI compatible can communicate with that. And so a perfect example is an Epiphan Pearl system, a PTZ camera, and you put both of those devices onto your local network, and now the PTZ camera can communicate with the Pearl system. Now, the other beauty of it is when you're utilizing NDI, a lot of the times the NDI devices, whether it's a PTZ camera or an encoder or decoder, a controller, doesn't really matter. A lot of the times they can also be powered over something called Power over Ethernet. So you can use a single cable from your network switch, and we're always going to recommend the M4250 line of network switches, but you can have a single cable connected to your network switch to your camera, and then you can get power, you can get video, and you can get control all through that one cable. And with some of our manufacturers, such as BirdDog, who we will be talking with in another segment, they have cameras that are now available that are wireless NDI with batteries built into them. So you can actually get completely wireless NDI video feeds and control onto your network. And then the great thing about NDI as well is it's very low latency, but you still get high quality. With every iteration of NDI, now we're on NDI HX3, it's kind of like the Goldilocks, it gets better and better. It uses less bandwidth on your network, but it still produces that same quality. And with NDI 6 and 6.1 and further iterations of NDI, they're adding even more quality by making it so HDR cameras and HDR video feeds can be brought onto your network. Again, utilizing NDI HX3, you're putting that high quality HDR video, 4K 60p video on your network, and it's not taking up that much bandwidth, but it's still going to look great. And again, it's super flexible. If you have a camcorder and you plug an HDMI cable into it and you plug that into your into a switch of some sort, well, you are kind of limited to, it's just a point-to-point connection. Whereas NDI, once it's on the network, it can be accessed by any other NDI device on the network. Perfect example of that is if you are doing a play in your auditorium and you take that and you want to watch that NDI feed in a different building, you can download NDI tools onto a computer for free, connected to the same network, and then use NDI Studio Monitor to monitor those cameras. And that's all for free. You don't have to pay anything extra for it. And so NDI is super, super flexible. You can have cameras in even across multiple buildings too, with stuff like NDI Bridge. So NDI is super, super flexible, and one of the best ways to incorporate video throughout an entire campus. Now, I wanted to also just give a quick overview between the different types of cameras that are available on the market, and that we carry, that other people carry. Um, our favorite is going to be, again, a PTZ camera. These stand for pan, tilt, zoom camera. So these are self-contained cameras. You stick a single cable into it, a Cat6 Ethernet cable into it. A lot of them are NDI compatible. A lot of them are PoE compatible. And through that single cable, you can move the camera to pan left or right. You can tilt the camera up or down, and you can even zoom in. And all of that video then goes onto your network if it's an NDI camera. And if it's not, a lot of them will have still HDMI, SDI, and USB output. The next kind of camera is what we like to call a box camera. And typically a box camera is going to be just the sensor and lens of a PTZ camera. So you're not going to get the pan or the tilt, but you still get the zoom, and you still get the ability to remotely control things like exposure and color balance and all of that, because that camera will still be on the network. And if you know that you're going to have a fixed camera position, there's no need to spend the extra money to get a PTZ. You can just get a box camera. Now, let's say that you want to have a camera that is able to be moved and is basically point and shoot. That's where something like a camcorder would come into play. Typically, a camcorder is going to have a lens built into the system. You'll be able to record directly to the camera. A lot of them are also pretty small. You can carry them in one hand, and then you record directly to, most of the time, it's going to be an SD card. Now, a camcorder is great, again, because you can take it anywhere with you and you can record internally onto the camera. But the other thing with camcorders, and is kind of a downside with DSLRs, is a camcorder typically is going to not really have a recording limit. The recording limit is going to be until you run out of storage on your SD card, not the camera itself. So, long events that you want to record the whole thing, it might not be a bad idea to have a camcorder there. Now, DSLRs come into play, which are, digital single lens reflex cameras or mirrorless cameras. When I say DSLRs, I mean cameras that have a detachable lens. Again, it's going to be similar to a camcorder in that it records internally, but with a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, you can have that lens and have interchangeable lenses. Unlike a PTZ camera, a box camera, or a camcorder, where the lens is integrated into the system. And you might be thinking, well, why would I want that? Typically, these cameras are going to be used for more stylized shooting. So you may want to get a lens that has a really low aperture, so you can have a nice shallow depth of field and make your shots look cinematic and stuff like that. Again, if you want your students to go out and, let's say, make a historical reenactment or a video essay of some sort, maybe they want to get a little bit more creative, have a shallower depth of field on their camera, and so they're, have a soft focus on their face and their background completely out of focus. That is much easier to do on something like a DSLR if you get the appropriate lenses. So now we're talking about NDI. We're talking about cameras that are available from some of our manufacturers. And I think this is a perfect segue to introduce John Roberts from PTZ Optics. Now, I recorded this segment with John Roberts last week. He was unable to join us live, but I still wanted to talk about PTZ Optics because they have great PTZ cameras, and they have box cameras, they have controllers, and they have brand new and exciting from NAB, PTZ Optics Hive Studio. Now, I'm kind of spoiling everything, so why don't I just say, let's play that video, and we'll see you after. Hey everybody, my name is James. I am one of the hosts here at EduStream, and today we're super excited to be joined by John Roberts from PTZ Optics to talk about their cameras, controllers, and Hive Studio and how they fit into the education workflows. Hey John, how's it going?
Great. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on today.
Of course. So why don't you do us a favor and introduce yourself to our guests and then maybe tell us a little bit about PTZ Optics.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name is John Roberts. I'm the customer success manager for PTZ Optics. And PTZ Optics has been a leading manufacturer in PTZ cameras for about 10 years now. And we look at the market as growing, continually growing and expanding because PTZs are becoming a extensive and important part in production. So what we offer is high quality cameras at affordable prices. And we're continually expanding, and we're happy to talk about Hive Studio today, which is our new camera control platform. So there's a lot of exciting stuff for us coming out, and we're happy to be here.
All right, sounds good. So let us get right into it and start talking about some of the cameras and controllers that you have available, and then we'll get into some workflow examples. Really excited.
Great. Yeah, I'm also very excited. So, the education market is really exciting for us because it's broken down in a lot of different levels, right? You have elementary, your primary school and high school, and you also have universities and colleges, right? So, a lot of these get broken down in various different ways because education is not as simple as it may appear, right? So, when it comes to education, you obviously have your classrooms, and I'm the customer success manager here. If you guys need anything related to our cameras, anything to Hive Studio, reach out to me at john.roberts at pdzoptics.com. Now, I wanted to hit on some of the main points that people look for in education. So, obviously, you want ease of use. You want products that are very easy to have volunteers jump in, control them, use them, and get to know them very quickly. You obviously want things to be affordable. Education usually buys products on a large scale. So you want things to be affordable and to be used both inside the class and outside the class. Domestic support is very important. You want to be able to call someone immediately and be able to get them on the line and have great 5-year warranties like we offer for our cameras. And then you want versatility when it comes to the outputs. So some schools may want to NDI and use everything over IP, or they want to stick to what they know easily and simple, like a USB input. And so you also have compatibilities with a lot of programs. So we're talking about Stream Deck, OBS, vMix, a lot of easy to use platforms that we integrate in for free.
Yeah, one of
Now,
the
when we're
things.
looking
Oh,
at cameras, yeah,
sorry.
go ahead, James.
So one of the things that I was going to say is what we like to say about the PTZ Optics cameras in particular is total connectivity, and I think that it's worth mentioning that again that you have SDI, NDI, USB, HDMI, every single kind of connection point in all of these cameras to be able to use in any situation. And I just wanted to emphasize that it's any situation. And you have PTZ cameras that are starting at under $1,000 that have all of those outputs available. So I just wanted to re-emphasize that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So, and you can even use both of those at the same time in a way. So you can output via HDMI, you can output via IP like NDI, all at the same time. So I've
Yep.
seen a lot of universities do that across various workflows. So it's become very, very important to have standardized outputs across all of our products. So quick little glance, Move 4K, that's our 4K 60 FPS PTZ camera. It's going to offer advanced tracking and now even voice tracking, which is becoming very popular in education markets. And then looking at the 1080p version, we're looking at the Move SE, and then a Simple Track 3, which is our dual lens tracking camera. So you're going to have a little bit more automation and control over auto tracking with the Simple Track 3.
Great.
Alrighty. So I wanted to go over a little overview again of why PTZ cameras and PTZ optics is great for the education market. So something I mentioned is just ease of use. So Stream Deck has become super easy. I have one right on my desk here, a tiny little 6 input device. And to have this set up on a teacher's desk becomes very simple, right? They can easily click a button to go right back to home or right back to their desk or right to a certain student in the room. And then we also have easy controls for apps, free apps, third-party apps. And we also have obviously great controllers, and we support tons of different plugins like OBS and vMix. Obviously, we offer great high-quality lenses and sensors that are great in low light performances, and we offer HDMI and SDI outputs, all with HD or 4K 60 FPS. And then, of course, our cameras are perfect for hybrid learning. So you can have great access remotely with Hive Studio, which I'll talk about a little bit today. And then we also have local control, tons of different options for local control. And then, of course, our products are very affordable and very easy to access across many resellers across the country. Moving forward, I wanted to show some of these easy control solutions. So kids are very used to controllers. When it comes to Xbox controllers, game controllers, kids have grown up using these. So we found it very important to make sure that it's supported with all of our cameras. So it's also supported inside of Hive Studio, where you can use a game controller to control your PTZ movements very easily. And I found that working with kids, they get excited when they can use a controller to control their camera, because it then becomes more of a game and it's interactive, right? It's a lot more fun for them.
No,
But out of every box, every camera that we have includes an IR remote. So right out of the box, you're able to control your PTZ cameras. They're very easy for what people are used to. They're like a TV remote. So teachers just find them very easy to just immediately use and start moving their camera. What you also have here is the Stream Deck. So this is the interface that you would see on an iOS device, like an iPad or an iPhone. And you can easily program this. And this is completely for free. You don't even need to buy the hardware for a Stream Deck. You can. They're great little devices and they're very affordable. But you can even do this for free on iOS. All right, I just want to quickly go over some simple workflows. I'm not going to spend too long breaking down these diagrams, talking about network solutions and all that. But I wanted to show some examples of how these are used in day-to-day classrooms and outside of the classroom. So here we have a very simple setup. You're using a third-party smartphone app, or you're going to use our PTZ Control Pro 2 app, which is a great free application to control your PTZ cameras. And then I want to show you how this could be used. So here we have Rosemont College. They were using this during the pandemic to kind of mix in hybrid learning since all their students were remote. So we have a clear demonstration of using the IR remote, which is really simple solution to kind of control your camera. And then you can even set presets on that as well and adjust between multiple cameras. But this made it really easy for these students now to stay connected with their professor, stay educated and still feel like they're participating in the classroom. Moving on to a little bit more complex workflow, I'm introducing the SimpleTrack in here. So the SimpleTrack 3, like I said, is a dual lens tracking camera. It's great for education because it's a one camera setup. You have a wide angle view and your main sensor in your main barrel. And that's going to lead to better auto tracking across the board. What you're able to do is set up different zones. You can have a whiteboard zone so the camera will automatically pan and move to that whiteboard when the professor or the teacher is walking into the room. And you can even have it turn on lights or open up curtains or interact with your environment if it's IP based. So a little bit more complex, but I wanted to show a demonstration that we did in two different environments, one in a conference room or in an actual classroom where you're using the SimpleTrack 3. And this provides awesome automation, right? So you can have even a blocking zone. If there's like a window where people might walk by or a space where, the camera might get distracted, you can completely block that off entirely. So that way it knows to stay within your zone and keep tracking in that specific zone. All right, now we're starting to open up to a bigger, wider view, right? So we have many cameras in here, and this is probably not going to be used inside of the classroom. We're going to go beyond that. And that's why you start to see the lobby monitor. So think of things like an auditorium. Think of things like sports, right? Massive fields where you need multiple cameras. You might need to output to a lobby. You'll definitely need to be controlling these cameras in various different ways or multiple controllers. So I wanted to show various examples of this. And I focused it first on sports. Recently, we just did an awesome rugby game. And you can see here kids from 8 years old to about 12 years old using our Super Joy controllers to control a series of Move SE cameras, our 1080p 60 FPS cameras. So you can just see just how young our user base is right here. So, and they were easily able to just jump in, control our cameras, and understand exactly how this workflow works. It becomes more of a game when you integrate children into like the productions. And I've seen it more and more throughout the years that high schools now are even including production classes with PTZ cameras. And a lot of the times the classrooms are integrating those cameras in and they want the kids to be able to control them. Production is growing and it starts at the youth, right? So we see this as a great opportunity for kids to start to learn more about how production works and how PTZ cameras can be involved in those productions as well. So we've also done a series of other different games. These are all varsity high school sports. So we had the rugby match that I showed there. We have a local ice hockey high school team. And then we did at Salesianum High School here, we showed off some lacrosse and football. So they were all using around 4 to 6 different cameras. For a rugby stream, it was 4 cameras to cover the whole game. And then we had different controllers and we were switching it inside of a YOLO box. So you have a lot of different output options. We were using IP for control for this setup. And then we were also using HDMI for video switching to get that 4K 60 FPS video. All right, now if you're going to go back inside, I'm thinking of an auditorium, a larger space that might need 4 to 6 cameras to kind of cover the stage and cover some of the audience as well. So here we have a little demonstration that shows 4 different PTZ cameras that should cover your entire stage and space. And then we have also some of our support team doing an installation here to kind of showcase how this would be set up. And some of these people would like to mount these upside down. You can mount these with a 30x lens, which would be great for a large space like this. Or even a 20x lens would be great for a space that's more on a medium size. All of our cameras come in the 12x, 20x, and 30x when it comes to the standard PTZ cameras like the Move SE and the Move 4K. So here on the right, upper right there, is Hive Studio. So that's just a quick view at multi inputs inside of our new camera controller. And I'll show you that very soon. I keep teasing it for you, but here we are with Hive Studio. So James, I think it might be helpful to showcase Hive before I kind of break down all the features individually.
Yeah, I think one thing that we want to mention is that Hive Studio just launched at NAB. So kudos to the PTZ Optics team, and I'm super excited to see this demo. Before we get into this demo, I do want to just go back to 2 slides ago when you had the field there and you had those students using the SuperJoy controller. One of the things that you mentioned is that it's very intuitive for students to pick up and start using these controllers. But you guys also take it a step further and you have a basic mode specifically for the SuperJoy controller that makes it so, whoever's running the entire production doesn't have to worry about, one of the students accidentally changing the IP address or messing up the color or something like that with those cameras. You put it into a basic mode and they can call up presets and they can move the camera, but they can't really change any of the major settings. So I did just want to mention that because I think that it is great to get students involved in these productions.
Yeah, no, that's a great call out. I'm so glad you brought that up because it makes it really easy, right? So basically what it does is disable any input on the device that's not lit up, right? So you can individually go throughout the entire Superjoy and turn off individual buttons. So that's beyond the basic mode. You can even customize it to give them additional controls. But yeah, I'm so glad you called that out because we try to make it easy, right? When you look at a controller, there's so many buttons and it can
Right.
be overwhelming, right? Especially for a kid who's just like, I'm used to joysticks and like a game controller, which we always offer. It's a great solution, but the Superjoy is a really top of the line controller. So thank you for calling that out.
Of course. Now, I'm super excited to see Hive Studio in action. I'm sure that our viewers are excited. So why don't you take it away?
Great. So I'll just give you a little explanation of what Hive Studio is. So Hive Studio is going to allow you to mix color correction, recording, and high-end camera control into one platform. And not only that, you can easily share this platform. And then even better, it's included with one camera for free. And even better, it's not just limited to our cameras. You have options to integrate third-party cameras as well into Hive Studio. So we're supporting over 400 different make and models of cameras, and we're continuing expanding it beyond that. And it's not just limited to PTZ cameras. You're talking about DSLR cameras and webcam cameras and all sorts of different cameras we're trying to support in Hive Studio. So we're trying to make a very centralized platform for color correction, for recording, and for great camera control. Alrighty, I'm going to pull up my local studio here, and I'm going to give it a quick refresh. Alrighty, so here we are inside of Hive Studio. I'm going to refresh our inputs here, and we are currently in local mode. So Hive Studio offers the ability to be both local and remote. So you're able to easily jump into the software, and you're able to share this studio. So you can either share it so you have access to control certain cameras or access to the overall platform where you can then share and invite others as well. So it makes it very simple, much like a Google Drive or a Google Doc. You can just click one button, copy and paste, or just throw in their email and send them the platform. So here's a little view of all of our inputs. We call this the multi-view because you're able to easily see various inputs locally or remotely. You can also go to a single view and easily switch between your views as well. But let me show you some of the cool camera control tools. So we have our move tool, which basically uses your mouse as a joystick. So wherever I move my mouse, it'll follow along. Wherever I zoom in on my wheel, it'll follow along. Hey guys. And then we also have some cinematic tools as well. So this is what I call Cine Center. So basically, whenever you click on a point in the screen, it'll center that. So here we have our Studio 4K, which I'm using for my main video input. And we also even have cinematic fast frame. So if I zoom in on our Studio 4K here, double click to frame that directly, it'll zoom in and adjust based on where you're trying to focus on. So I'll switch to a different input so you can see here. We also even have a joystick controller that's built in with your mouse. So you'll see the percentage of how fast you want those movements to be based on how far you're moving your mouse. Alrighty, so I can show you some basic controls here on the right side. You obviously have your standardized home button, zoom in and out, pan left and right, tilt up and down. And then you have your standard PTZ controls that you're used to. So most of the time in these control platforms, that's what you're limited to, right? You don't have any additional tools like we were just showing you. You don't have the ability to sometimes show off multiple inputs in one platform. And we even have the ability to now integrate audio into the platform. So as soon as you click on it, it's going to look for your local sources. If you have linked a remote computer to this studio, you can then bring in remote inputs as well. So when we were at NEB, we were bringing in our inputs actually directly from our studio here to our NAB booth, and we were also bringing in local inputs as well. So, like I said, you can add audio. You're limited to a certain amount of video inputs depending on the plan that you have. And I can go further into that once we get to the pricing. But something I didn't mention is also color control. So you have the ability to color match your cameras very easily. So you can even set presets. So if I like the look of my little Lego pollen test here, and I've color corrected using all our tools here on the side, like blue and red tuning, I can click one button and it'll create a preset based on that image colors. So this works for not just our cameras. It goes beyond just our cameras. You can have over 400 different make and models of cameras inside of Hive Studio. Something that's also really cool about Hive Studio is the ability to monitor your sources. So in the education field, there's going to be a lot of IT departments that want to monitor every camera or source across their campuses or their single campus. So here you can quickly see how your camera is sending video, how you're receiving it locally in Hive Studio, and the quality, bit rate, and the FPS that you're currently streaming in. I mentioned your bridge. You can also monitor your computer as well. It'll give you information about your space, your CPU usage, and your RAM usage. And it's important to consider your recording space because Hive also allows you to NDI output as well as recording ISO inputs. So you can individually record every one of these inputs, or you can even output all of them together and integrate it with OBS or vMix or your favorite camera switcher. So this is giving you complete control over your cameras remotely or locally, having full control as well as image adjustments, color adjustments, and then soon we'll even be offering auto tracking built into Hive Studio as well. So you'll be able to offer auto tracking for cameras that don't even support auto tracking natively.
Wow.
So I'll quickly show you presets. In one click of a button, you can set a preset, and that's going to be a little pollen test here. I'm going to send our camera crazy back to our home position, which is going to show off our green screen here a little bit. And then with one click of a button, we'll go right back to that preset that we just set. So now you can easily name this preset, and you'll know the preview image of that preset as well. So that pretty much covers the overview of Hive Studio. But just to give a further breakdown, I wanted to show you exactly how this works feature to feature, right? So let me jump back to our Hive section here. And this is what I was trying to break down a little bit. A lot of these control platforms are very limiting. They feel dated, they look dated, and I think Hive Studio is one of the best looking and feeling controllers on the market. You're not limited to these clunky controls. You're not even limited to local networks anymore. Now, there's going to be no automation. And if there is automation, it's going to be a paid add-on, or it's going to be additional software that you'll need to download. You're not going to have the options to collaborate with your team, whether it's someone who's a camera controller or more of a producer. And then you're only going to be limited to that brand. Without calling out any specific brands, there's certain camera brands that make PTZ cameras that are very limiting. As soon as you buy one of their cameras, they're trying to lock you into a very tight ecosystem where you're not allowed to kind of expand and control their cameras. PTZ Optics has always been open. We've added free firmware updates, free support for other products, and we're continuously supporting other platforms and other cameras. So here's a little quick overview of some of those tools I was showing you. You have your click to center tool, which makes it really easy to click and center your frame. You have your cinematic tools like fast frame, which will really slowly, smoothly pan and tilt trisynchronously directly into your point of contact. And then you have your presets that I showed off. your basic joystick control, and auto tracking. Something I didn't mention is that you can actually integrate with those game controllers. So you can integrate an Xbox controller locally. You can have hotkeys to adjust and change your key presets. And you can also integrate hardware controllers. And that's not just limited to our awesome SuperJoy controller. You can also integrate third party controllers as well into Hive Studio. So it's so easy. You press one button, you can either share the platform as an admin, a producer, or a viewer. So something I didn't mention is that this could be used as a viewing platform. So when you think of, school events, if it's in an auditorium and it's this year's play, it's Wizard of Oz, right? You could use Hive with a series of camera inputs and share Hive to your whole school. And instead of just having this one centralized, video produced for everyone to see, you can have someone feel like they're a part of the production where they can zoom in on Dorothy's red slippers and they can interact with the environment. Or you can just have them see all the different inputs and have no control, and they can just view everything that's happening in various different angles. And you can even set expiring permission. So security is obviously very important when it comes to education. So we want to make sure that the only people that have access to Hive Studio are the people that you grant and for how long you want them to have access to. Like I mentioned, you can easily sync and adjust your colors in Hive Studio. So this can be easily done across various cameras. One of the biggest issues is trying to integrate a new brand or a new different camera into your workflow. And you notice very quickly how off the color might be compared to your cameras that you're used to using. So this will make it easier to set presets, easily color match, and look at your two inputs side by side and just get the best synchronous color across all your inputs. All right, something I didn't mention that's exclusive to PTZ Optics cameras is that they're all Hive linked. So Hive linked basically means that once you set up and connect your PTZ Optics cameras, you're able to send that, and once you connect it via Ethernet, you'll be able to access that camera remotely. So anyone who's been shared access to your studio would be able to remotely connect that. And for education, I imagine this is perfect for remote campuses. When I was in college, I went to school in Los Angeles for 3 months. I went to London for 3 or 4 months. And this was all through the same university. So I see Hive as being a great central control platform and a platform where you can easily just send new cameras to a new location, plug them one cable, and you're good to go. All right. Security is extremely important, especially in these educational environments. So we have end-to-end encryption using TLS, and obviously with your standard secure web protocols through HTTPS and WSS, because we know this is extremely important to keep your video safe. And that's why the only people that have access to Hive Studio are the people that you've given access via these user roles. And you can immediately take that away or set it to expiring access. And now we're not demanding you to change your firewall, or there's no port forwarding, but we have this securely and safely as possible. So we want to make sure that your video stays exactly where it needs to be and no one has access to your cameras if you don't want them to. Alrighty, when it comes to the pricing for Hive, this is based upon a few different things. The way I look at it is basically how many inputs do you need? If you know you're using this in one classroom and you probably only have a couple cameras, you probably don't need to go beyond the standard studio. But you'll learn very quickly that if you have more inputs, and this could even be, USB input or a screen capture locally could be an input as well, you might need to jump up to the 8 video inputs at the professional studio. And maybe the number of team members you're using could affecting that as well. So in a school, you might want to have a larger plan that goes even beyond 10 members. So that's when you would look into an enterprise plan by contacting our sales representatives directly. So you can contact partners at ptzoptics.com, and that would be the best way to reach out in regards to an enterprise plan. So enterprise opens it up, makes it unlimited in terms of how many video inputs you can have. And we have discounted pricing based on these overages costing. So the overages are related to when you use Hive Studio remotely. Each of these plans have a set amount of gigabytes or estimated streaming hours based on remote usage. So if you want to use this completely locally on your local network, never send it out to anyone remotely, you can easily do that, and you'll never get over the allotted cloud bandwidth that you have offered. So this makes it really easy, and we make it very clear in Hive how much you're using remotely, when you're using it locally. There's a little simple cloud button that you simply click, and it allows you to remotely send it to someone else. Alrighty. Now I wanted to take it back a little bit to education. I think it's very important to make these cameras and the control options so easy that a kid can use it. As I showed, there's a great little setup that we just did with rugby setup, and it made it super easy. We had Hive there with a game controller. One of the kids could hop on there and control cameras the way they liked, or they could use a hardware controller the way they wanted to. And then this easily expands it so you could have IT teams remotely controlling your cameras. They can even be monitoring your classrooms, different buildings, campuses. This could even be used as a security system for when it's off hours and kids aren't around, or the university is closed even for a holiday. So you can integrate security cameras like Access Dome cameras, where you can create a great security system across multiple campuses or just your local school. Now, at PTZ Optics, we offer basically plug and play solutions. With an Ethernet cable, you're able to easily connect it to a PTZ camera, get it set up either through a web interface or now Hive Studio, and easily be controlling your cameras, recording, and streaming instantly. Now, of course, I just mentioned security because it's very important. We make sure that it's very secure, that you're limited to who has access because of our encryption and because of those team roles. And we want to make sure that you always know your video is safe inside of Hive. All right, coming to the end, I just want to thank you, James. And I wanted to throw it to Brandy or Sean if they have anything to add in terms of the education market. I appreciate you guys also joining me. If you guys have any questions about PTZ Optics, you can go to ptzoptics.com or hit us up at partners@ptzoptics.com.
Sean, that was great. Thank you so much for talking about your cameras, your controllers, and that Hive Studio demo is amazing. I am super excited to start playing with it here in our studio. And just wow, thank you so much for that great presentation. As you said, if people have questions, you can see their contact information on the slide there. You can also feel free to give us a call for free tech support at 800-323-2325, and we will answer any questions that you have. John, thank you so much for joining us. And to everybody that is watching, stay tuned for more great content coming up next.
Thanks, video guys.
So one of the things that I want to talk about, again, I want to thank John and James for that great demo and great explanation of PTZ Optics and the Hive Studio. I want to thank Gary and George for kicking off the show. Everything that you see on Edustream TV, your single registration will give you access to our shows tomorrow and Wednesday as well. And all of these segments will be available on demand. There are going to be great little nudges that you can pull out from these different segments, and we know you'll want to refer back to them. So you can grab them at any time just with the same username, registration, and email that you've already provided. We're going to talk a lot about the live production and content creation aspect of how to create these streams and productions within your school. One of the things I wanted to do now, though, was also talk about the deliverability of that media on your campus itself. And that can be done through digital signage. Broadfield Distributing is a distributor for Absson LED display solutions. Absson LED display solutions are available from our nationwide network of system integrators, and they can help you design an LED display solution indoors or outdoors for any venue across your school, across your campus. Whether it's digital signage, whether it's something to complement your production, whether you're looking to set up a virtual production with an LED display as the backdrop to your set, or if you're just looking to upgrade your sports venues with some signage throughout your arena, Absson has the perfect solution for you. We're going to talk about a lot of those, and one of the reasons why we chose Absson is because all of their LED display solutions are manufactured in-house from a manufacturer with more than 15 years experience in the industry. These are Chinese-based manufacturing with Absson US providing installation services and support and warranty on all of their LED displays. Whether you are configuring a small LED display for a conference room, a touch panel for your classroom, or a large outdoor display for your sports venue, Absson has the solution across all of it. They have vertical-based solutions, which means they're going to give you the right solution for education, the right solution for sports, or for digital outdoor displays. We know that more and more schools are using these digital outdoor billboards to bring the community into knowing what is happening on campus. They have great relationships with our system integrators, again, located throughout the country, with resources available, hooking you up with a certified installer and support services for all of your LED displays. Absson LED displays are made to enhance the visual learning. The more you can put up in full, bright color in the front of your classroom, the easier it is going to be to share those materials. When you're looking at these LED display solutions, we can really help you configure a solution at any size. They even have curved panels available to wrap around specific creative displays and really giving you the most of their capability. One of the products that we're going to talk about is the Absson Icon Edge series, which is an all-in-one solution where these panels are built together to give you a full touch panel control in a gorgeous up to 136-inch screen that your lecturers can use and stand in front of to share all their presentation materials. Absson LED display solutions are being used in lecture halls and auditoriums throughout the country. Student unions and common areas. This is where we talked about that digital signage capability. If the football game is happening on the field and you want to display that across the campus, that can be done easily with Absson LED display solutions and the right video distribution and management systems. Sports facilities and arenas are obviously a big element to where you would see these LED displays. The Studio Series, the KLCOB from Absson, has some of the highest refresh rates and some of the lowest dot pitch. Dot pitch means how far do you need to be standing away from the display before you're going to see those LED pixels. If you're mounting the display solution at the back corner of an arena, you can have a much larger dot pitch because the naked eye is going to be much further away and still be able to pick up the full resolution of your image. As you start getting closer and closer, you want to minimize that dot pitch and you want to increase your refresh rate for a crystal clear signal. The KLCOB is an excellent solution that can fit into a lot of smaller classrooms to give you that excellent display quality. These panels are in stock and available from our system integrators. We are working very closely with Absson and our integrators in the US to make sure we help shrink some of those lead times. So if there is an LED display solution that your school is looking to get set up quickly, this time of year, maybe you need to get something set up in time for graduation. We can help make that happen. The NH series are some of their more popular 2.5 pitch, allowing you to get a perfect signal from about 25 feet away. The NH series are built to be ultra reliable and ultra durable, really giving you that tried, true, tested capability in a school where things can smack up against it, crash up against it, and you're not going to damage the pixels. The NH series is easy to set up, great to view, and really versatile for a lot of different applications. And then the one that I mentioned just at the top of this segment is the Absson Icon Etch series. The Absson Icon Etch is their series of display solutions that give you a very small dot pitch in an all-in-one solution with a framed housing in either touchscreen or non-touchscreen versions that can be set up in classrooms very quickly and very easily. The Absson Icon Etch is available in different sizes, with the most popular being a 136-inch display. The 136-inch display in non-touch and touch panel has some great deals available right now and can be implemented into your schools quickly and easily. These give you a 15,000 to 1 contrast ratio, really allowing you to see crystal clear colors all across the color gamut. 90% BT 2020, again, another one of those specs to tell you that the colors are going to look sharp. Your blacks will be blacks, your whites will be whites, and everything in between can be set and calibrated. If you're the Ohio State University and you want to make sure that your red looks like the red it's supposed to be, that scarlet and gray is going to come across on that screen crystal clear. And you can get all of that capability with these Absson Icon Etch displays. If you have any questions about finding the right LED display solution, you can reach out to Broadfield at 800-634-5178, one of our sponsors for EduStream TV. We can connect you with the system integrator and the Absson installation team in the US, and we can make sure we get the right solution available for you. Obviously, the LED display solution that you put around campus for digital signage, those that you put into your classrooms for presentations, and those that get mounted onto your venues, whether it's a theater production auditorium or a sporting venue, are going to be very different. We can help you find the right display solution for each of those applications and help you get them set up at great prices, and with availability in both New York and California, we can make sure we get your deadlines met. If you have questions about any of these LED display solutions or any of the great products we talked about so far on EduStream TV, you can reach out to us right here in the chat. You can send an email, you can give us a call, and we'd be happy to connect you and get you more. We have a great schedule planned for the next 2 days of EduStream TV, with presentations coming from Panasonic, VizRT showing off their new TriCaster workflows. We have discussions on esports and sports production and everything that your schools need to get up and running. We're also introducing the brand new Bird Dog family of products with some of their Maki Live production systems, allowing you to really get started in live production at a very affordable price. You can reach out to us at EduStream TV, at Videoguys at 800-323-2325, or for Absson or any of our installation services to connect you with an integrator in your area at 800-634-5178. Thanks for tuning in today. We'll see you again tomorrow.